Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I ran across a very interesting young lady who I thought we'd check in with. She's originally from Victoria, British Columbia, but she now finds herself in Florida. Holly Hanlon is her name. She is CEO of the Soho Media Group, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what the Soho Media Group is and does and her background, but also a lot about, I think, empowering our journey through mindset, which sounds really quite fascinating. Holly, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. It's such a pleasure. I've been through a very varied journey in my life, and it's now brought me to having my own business, Soho Media Group. And what we do is we actually help other businesses get their voice heard. And we're a small boutique company, and I like to keep it that way because I like to be very hands-on. And get really involved with my clients and the work that they're doing. And
how do you get businesses' stories heard?
Yes, so that's through social media and through podcast management, which is all sort of new and cutting edge. And I have 3 kids. It was actually my daughter who got me involved in the business. For a long time, I was actually climbing the corporate ladder as a project management specialist for IT companies. And my daughter started her own business after graduating from high school, one of the things that she does. And she just started kind of showing me the ropes. It was fascinating. And that just led to me growing my own business. So it's amazing, the circle of life and how our kids can kind of influence our lives as well.
Ain't that true? What's podcast management?
Podcast management is a lot of clients now, or a lot of businesses use podcasting to get their voice out into the world. One of my clients does relationship coaching, and he's an author. So he has a podcast where he has guests come on. It's called Kick-Ass Couples. He has guests come on and talk about, their relationship and what makes their relationship so powerful and successful. And I have another client who has an insurance company, and she interviews small businesses. So it's just a way for businesses to get their voice out into the world and for people to learn about what they do in a different way.
Fascinating. And what took you from Victoria to Florida?
To Florida, it was actually a relationship. The relationship didn't last, but Florida lasted. I'm still here and I love it. So
okay. Well, maybe I won't go there then. And your mission, you say, is clear: to help you unlock your inner leader and empower your journey through mindset.
Yeah.
Why is that your mission?
That's something very close to my heart. I started out in a place in life that wasn't so great. I had a rough childhood. I had a very dysfunctional family. I had a very low self-esteem, ended up with an eating disorder. That's like a whole other story. So I worked really hard to improve myself, to find ways to grow. I'm a very big advocate of personal growth, and always having some level of personal growth in my life is important. And I don't think enough, especially women, but I think, men and women, I don't think enough people really see the value of what's inside of themselves, how powerful they are, how much they can accomplish, and how strong they are. So I love to just be able to speak about these things and help other people see that within themselves.
What you wrote here is that your diverse background spans across leading multi-million-dollar tech projects for Fortune 500 companies, to acting in TV commercials and for blockbuster films, to raising your 3 children, and that you understand the power of storytelling and the impact it can have on transforming lives, and that you want to tap into your unique story and unleash your innate superpowers. What's your unique story? Is it this eating disorder?
Yeah, I think that was a big part of my life, because that was my way of coping, or rather not coping, with my lack of self-esteem, my lack of self-worth. I didn't know how to deal with my emotions. I really didn't even know what emotions were. I honestly started going to, therapy and counseling at one point in my life, and she had to hand me a list of emotions so I could look at them and actually pick out on the list what I was feeling, because I had no idea. And I think a lot of us do that. We numb ourselves out in life and just kind of go through the motions and don't dig further into ourselves to really understand who we are and what we're capable of. We kind of stay stuck in that place of not feeling anything, and there's no growth happening there. You know, I had a personal development, I guess, I don't know, he's a coach, his name was David Nagel, but he always said, you're growing or you're dying, you're doing one or the other, but there's no kind of in between. So I think the more we can discover about ourselves and our own personal strengths and skills, and you know, focus on those and making more of them, the better we are in the world, the better.
So how did you you know, transform from this person who had the disorder into someone that is so empowered by empowerment?
Yeah. So I mean, it wasn't an overnight thing by any means. And I don't think we're ever stopped from learning and growing in life and becoming better. I think there's always more we can do. But for me, it was probably, you know, because I came from a dysfunctional family, I ended up in a very dysfunctional marriage. I did have 3 great children from that situation, but the situation became so untenable at one point that I had no other choice but to leave the situation. And I had been at home as a stay-at-home mom, which was a wonderful, wonderful experience, but it was at the point where I needed to leave the situation. So it was me and my 3 little kids, who were 7, 4, and 2 at the time.
Oh my God.
You know, I hadn't worked. It was scary. It was one of the scariest things that I had ever gone through in my life, but I had to leave, and I didn't leave with much. But it was also one of the best experiences in my life, in that I found the strength within myself and the capability within myself that I never knew was there. And I probably never would have known it was there if I had stayed in that situation.
Why was it untenable?
It was a very dysfunctional, abusive situation, physically, mentally, in every way. And I finally, you know, they say I wasn't an addict, but addicts have that point where they hit rock bottom. This was an abusive situation that finally hit rock bottom, and I had enough. And you have to protect yourself, and you have to protect your children at some point. And that's where I finally just said, I have to go. So
making that decision to leave must have been difficult, but how'd you get through it?
Well, again, that's where the personal development came in. And it's interesting. I've always been drawn to reading books. I mean, way back, it was Louise Hay and Wayne Dyer. I've always been drawn to their work. And so, and I've always had a level of spirituality. I was brought up Catholic. And so there was always a level of, you know, spirituality, God, a belief in a greater power in my life. And that's what I turned to. And that's what kept me going through all of that. And to this day, I always, you know, every day I'm reading something, I'm listening to something, I'm meditating, I'm doing something to sort of keep that balance in my life.
We're chatting tonight with Holly Hanlon, who is the CEO of the Soho Media Group. She's an author and a speaker. She's an entrepreneur. The Entrepreneur's Book of Wisdom. What's that? Something coming soon?
That is coming soon. So that is a book that I had been invited to write a chapter in. This is going to be volume 2. Volume 1 is actually just coming out now, but it's a book that several entrepreneurs have been invited to write a chapter in, just full of wisdom, entrepreneurial wisdom. So that's done by Hanlon Publishing, and volume 2 is going to be coming out later in the year.
Sounds like you got a lot going on.
I do.
We're going to take a break for some messages and be back in just 2 minutes with Holly Hanlon talking about her life, her career, Soho Media Group, and her attitude toward life, this passion that she's got. Stay with us, everyone. Back in 2. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I'm chatting tonight with Holly Hanlon. She is the CEO of the Soho Media Group, and she's really had as I'm finding it more and more, a really interesting life. And it has been challenging at times. And she's worked through it, and she's done a lot of empowerment training and working on herself and learning. And now she wants to share it with the rest of us. And I think I met you because someone recommended I check out your Instagram and some of the inspirational messages that you had left on your Instagram. And your Instagram is just covered with inspirational quotes and messages. Why?
Yeah. Well, it's as much for me as it is for everybody else. There's a saying, where your attention goes, your energy flows. So I love to keep myself inspired. I love to focus on good things. And here's my Instagram. I love to help other people, and I love to help other people stay positive as well. So I just think it's really important. There's a saying that Gandhi said, and it was, be the change you want to be in the world. So I want the world to be a really great place for everybody. So instead of pointing the finger at everybody else, I need to point the finger at myself and help myself get there, but help everybody else get there too, because we're all in this together.
So, if you're not comfortable, tell me a little bit about your eating disorder and how old you were and what happened.
Sure. I was very young. I was probably around 10. And food just became a way that I could comfort myself. I didn't have a family situation where I felt comforted or supported. I had more of a situation that was quite the opposite, where everything I did was wrong, everything I said was wrong. It was mentally, physically abusive in every way. And that was the only coping mechanism that I had available to me.
You ate and you put on weight? Is that what happened?
It's something called bulimia, and it's not just about the eating. It's about the numbing of your feelings. It's about finding comfort in something. And I think because food represents comfort in our society, in our traditions, in our rituals, Christmas, Easter, all of those kind of things. It's all based around food. Halloween, it's all based around food. And so that becomes comfortable. And yeah, so it's eating, and then it's eating too much, but it's the numbing out of yourself. And that's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I just want to say, like, the eating disorders and bulimia and anorexia, it's not about wanting to be skinny. And that's, I think, where people in society judge and get it all wrong. It's about the relationship we have with ourselves. It's about us seeking help and not knowing where to look or to find it, but just finding that thing that's there to support us. And so with bulimia, it's food, and it changes your brain chemistry just like any other addiction. And it's a hard cycle to get out of.
It changes your brain chemistry, really.
It does. Yeah. And they're always doing more and more studies on it. And I don't want to get into science, because I don't know all the facts and the figures. I probably would have brought them if I knew that we were going to talk about this, but I don't think it's been studied enough. And I do think, I believe in the mind-body chemistry, and I do think, and science is starting to show now that, our genetics can be turned on and off depending on different stresses in our life. So we all have different vulnerabilities that stress can turn on. And I really believe that, an eating disorder, just like alcoholism, can be turned on and off depending on stress in your life and how you're able to cope and manage with things.
How long did this go on, and how did you get out of it?
Well, I would say I don't think it's something that ever goes away. I think now I have the tools to manage it, but it's kind of always there lurking in the background, just like an alcoholic. But the biggest thing for me was having my kids, because I'm someone who's a giver and really loves to take care of other people. And I think in the past, I cared more about other people than I did about myself. So, when you're pregnant, you can't do to yourself what I was doing to myself if you want to have a healthy baby. So had my 3 kids, and that helped me a lot. But then the stress of the marriage and going out on my own, going back to school, raising 3 kids almost 100% on my own, very little help from my ex. It got stressful. So yeah, there were times where I definitely, those tendencies came back up again. But what I discovered is that we're all human, but there are other people out there that can help us. And there are tools that we can use to get ourselves back into balance. And I think going through all of that allowed me to discover myself using the personal development tools. And I always try and make sure at least once a year I go to an actual event that I'd go and immerse myself into, whether it's Tony Robbins or Danny Johnson or David Nagel. There's all these incredible opportunities available for us to go and learn more about ourselves and learn more about how to deal with our stress, how to see more in ourselves, how to step out of our comfort zone and be more of who we are, more than who we thought we could be, but yet we know we want to be that person. So just it showed me, I guess, different ways of being and growing. And to me, it's like changing that generational situation that was going on in my original family, where I grew up. I did not want to become that parent. I did not want my children to go through what I went through. I wanted them to go off into the world being, great people, and they are. And I'm really proud of all of them. They're all adults now. They're all off on their own. And I'm really proud of all of them. So I feel like I've accomplished what I set out to do, even coming from a very difficult situation. And I hope I can be an example for other people to be inspired to know that they can do more than they thought they could. It doesn't matter where you come from or where you've been or, how much money you have. There are possibilities for change, and you're capable of them. So that's what I hope to inspire in other people.
Fascinating. Let me ask you about 2 concepts that sort of come up from this conversation, if I could. Generational trauma. Some people think that one generation's trauma can affect another generation's trauma. I thought that was stuff until I actually read and then interviewed someone, a study that showed that it was very true that people in the Holocaust that had to deal with starvation ended up really changing their DNA, such that the next generation ended up having real problems eating food because they were worried about what would happen in the future. And they used numerous different examples about how going through a significant trauma actually changed your DNA, changed the way that you, dealt with life, even for people that weren't socialized. And it also happened for a socialization standpoint, but actually, even if you didn't know what your parents and grandparents went through, it actually changed sort of your makeup, and they could track it. So you said you had a generational issue from your upbringing, but you were able to break that, and you haven't passed that on to your children. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, I hope so. I like to believe that. They're all very well functioning people in the world. So I believe that. And actually, the greatest gift I think I've ever had was my oldest son coming to me. This was actually a couple months ago. And he said, "Mom, I am so proud of you. Seeing where you came from and where you are now." He said, "It's so inspiring to me. And I'm just so proud of you." And that was probably the greatest thing anyone could have ever said to me in my life. So
you described yourself as a people pleaser, as someone that was always trying to do something for others rather than worried about yourself. Some people have suggested that people that are like that end up attracting narcissists as their the other side of the relationship. And you said you've gone through a couple of relationships. Has that been part of your problem? Is that you're one of these?
You nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. I completely agree with that statement. It's true. Yeah.
And if you know that, are you able to control that and not attract the narcissist or not be attracted to the narcissist?
Well, it's happened a few times. I'm hoping that, it's a continuous journey of learning, and you only know what you know. And I think this whole narcissism, I almost feel like it's a buzzword right now. Like
I agree with that.
Kind of becoming aware of it, but we're a conscious collective. So it's where we're at in the world right now. There are a lot of people who are narcissists, and there are a lot of people who are givers. So I think, sometimes we have to experience both extremes to find the middle ground. So I have definitely been in relationships with several narcissists, and I just hope I'm getting better at it. And I think when I come out of a relationship, you look at, what did I learn in that? What was my lesson in that? Because yes, the other person, you can say a million different things about what they did wrong and how awful they were. And you were part of the story. You were part of that situation. So even if they were treating you badly, why were you accepting it? And why were you still there? And I think, this last marriage that I was in, it actually, and we're still friends, even though it was, it didn't work out, but it did show me that I had a lot more growth to do around my self-worth, and really valuing who I am and appreciating who I am and my skills and abilities. So
tell me, why are you attracted to that kind of a personality, and why do you stay with that kind of a personality? Is it because you think you can change them or want to change them, or like, what is it?
What I think is, everything kind of comes back to our childhood. And when you have a parent who is treating you in a certain way, you find ways to quiet them or appease them or change yourself so that they don't notice you. And that's where your voice gets quiet, and you're not, you do your best to not be seen and not be heard and not stir up anything. And you diminish yourself. And so when you go out into the world, because that's what you've known, and that's where your comfort zone is, when you find people that do treat you well and are kind to you and do give you, appreciation and that sort of thing, it's uncomfortable because you haven't felt it before. So it feels weird, and you question it because you haven't been treated that way before. So it's almost as though you gravitate towards people that, don't treat you so well because it feels more comfortable. And I think a lot of people suffer from that.
Holly, this is really powerful. I want to thank you very much for sharing your story with us. I wonder if you might do me a favor. Recently, you posted a really interesting thing about the past versus the present. Could you read this for us?
Sure. Yeah. Looking back keeps us anchored in the past, preventing us from fully embracing the beauty and abundance that awaits us in the present and future. The past has shaped us, taught us valuable lessons, and filled our hearts with memories. But dwelling there robs us of the infinite possibilities that lie just beyond the horizon. Our true power lies in the present moment. The universe conspires to support us in magnificent ways when we trust in the journey and lean into the unknown. Embrace the adventure that unfolds with every step, knowing that the magic lies ahead. Each day brings the chance to rewrite our story, to paint our lives with vibrant colors, and to create a future that surpasses our wildest dreams. Let go of what no longer serves you. Embrace the present with open arms. Trust that the best is yet to come. Step forward with faith and watch as the beauty of the journey unfolds before your very eyes.
We're going to take a break for some messages and be back in just 2 minutes with Holly, talking a little bit more about what she has learned and what she's trying to do to impact us all with her experiences and her learning and what seems to me like an incredible Phoenix story. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Sagan and 60. I'm having a really interesting conversation tonight with Holly Hanlon. She is the CEO of the Soho Media Group. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what that is. But we've had a really interesting conversation about her interesting and challenging background, but also that she's, had this metamorphosis, this Phoenix kind of a situation. And even her son came to her and said how proud he was of who she's become. And I think she's got some incredible lessons, and she wants to share some of those lessons with us. I've referenced some of her Instagram a few times already, and one of the posts that she made recently was, "Your happiness and success should never be held hostage by someone else's opinion," which I think is very true. I wonder, Holly, if we could chat a little bit about some of your attitudes. You talked about mindset being critical as shaping your journey as an entrepreneur and how it has impacted your success. How has mindset been important to you?
Well, I think it's really important to know ourselves, know our strengths and weaknesses. But, depending on where we've been in life and what we've experienced, who we've experienced, and the things that they've kind of said to us, I used to believe that I had to believe, the thoughts in my own head and that I didn't have any control over them. But then I learned that I actually do have control over them, and I can sort of program my own mind to think about what I want to think about and focus on what I want to focus on, rather than just allowing all of these other people's ideas to infiltrate my mind. And when we are clear about what we're thinking, and it's just, going back to where your attention goes, energy flows. When you have good thoughts coming into your mind, the energy goes into good places and you feel better about yourself. It also impacts your emotions, and all of that, radiates out of you and creates the life that you're living.
Can you give me an example of a specific mindset shift or belief that has been instrumental in you overcoming your challenges and driving your business?
Yeah. So I used to have this, I still use it sometimes, this mantra that I would repeat to myself when I started to feel overwhelmed, or, like a crisis was happening or life was too much. And it's just that things are always working out for me. And when you first, I would just repeat it over and over and over in my head. And when you first start saying it to yourself, you're not necessarily believing it. But as you keep saying that to yourself and not allowing any other thoughts to overpower that little mantra, it actually really starts to change how you feel, and you really start to believe it.
How do you have that attitude when you've gone through this eating disorder and some failed relationships? How do you have that attitude? You just decide it?
You do. It's a choice. And everything in life is a choice. And I chose to feel better. I chose to have a better life. I chose to want more in life. And if you want those things, you need to stay true to your choice, and you need to be disciplined. So just like going to the gym and working out, you want to look good and feel good. The thoughts in your mind, you need to be disciplined about as well.
You mentioned a growth mindset in what you wrote to me. How do you cultivate a growth mindset? What is a growth mindset? And how do you foster that within an organization?
So always having some sort of development within your organization, but it's being the leader of your organization. And an organization, it can be, yes, working on a multi-million-dollar project in a Fortune 500 tech company, or it can be, a mom, a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids. She's a leader. She's a leader. We're all a leader of our own lives. And being a leader requires responsibility, and it requires discipline. Do you want to be a great leader? Or do you want to just, let life happen to you? So when you make that choice to be a great leader, you look at other people and you look at how they can be great leaders as well, because we're all leaders. We're all leading lives.
It seems like you've had, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I don't think people kind of look at themselves as leaders in their own lives and in their own person.
Seems like you've had incredible resilience and perseverance. How do you do that? What are some strategies you do to employ that resilience and perseverance?
It's a discipline, and some days are not as easy as others. So making sure in every day that, and I think I mentioned this earlier, but it's, reading something positive, listening to something positive, doing positive things for my physical being, doing positive things for my spiritual being, making sure that I'm surrounding myself with other people who support that sort of positive aspect of living that I want to be surrounded by. And being somewhat ruthless to keep your environment peaceful and, in a state where you can continuously keep your mindset clear and positive, and just maintaining it to be in that state that you want to keep it in.
You use this analogy of being the gardener of your life, and that you have the power to nurture and cultivate the thoughts and emotions that lead you to your ultimate destiny.
Yeah.
Really? You have you're the gardener, and you can nurture and cultivate your future?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have so much control over our own lives. And the more that we embrace that idea, the more powerful we become. When you're planting seeds of what you want, your focus is going to go on to those things. I actually got together with some of my girlfriends last weekend, and we did some intention setting. We sat down and wrote in journals the things that we want in the year ahead. And when you do that, when you put it in writing, when you focus on it, when you share it with a small group of other people who support you, that's planting your seeds. And then through the course of the year, like even, through the last week, we're messaging each other and cheering each other on. Good things are happening, and good friends support your success. When you're in a situation where people are, you can feel it, getting sort of jealous or, questioning your choices. It's not a great place to be in, but when you're planting your seeds, when you're with a group of individuals that really support you and believe in what you do and have a similar mindset, life prospers, your garden grows, your fruits grow, your flowers bloom, and it's you have control over it. You have to keep nurturing it, though. You can't just read a book one weekend or one day and expect that your life's going to change. It's a continuous process. For me, a lifetime. Yeah.
Some people have this sort of que sera attitude that what will be, and that it's all planned out for you, and if it's meant to be, it will be. You seem to have a different attitude that it's all up to you, that you're the one in control, not the universe.
Yeah, well, I think to some degree, maybe our life is pre-planned before we come, and certain things are supposed to happen, and maybe certain people are supposed to cross our paths. But at the same time, I believe that we live in a life of free will and we have a lot of choice. And I don't think enough of us take advantage of the choice and the power that's available to us, but it's there.
What are some of the traits of effective leaders that you see and that you try to emulate?
I would say believing in yourself, believing that you may not know everything, but you can find it out. And then creating a team of people around you who have the skills and abilities that you need. So if you're working on a project, find the people to the best of your ability that can, that have the skills to work on that project, but then trust them, trust their ability. Don't think that you know everything. Trust that other people, have their skills, have their abilities, and that you can all work together to make things happen. So believe not only in yourself, but in the people that you surround yourself with, and believe that, even if things come up that look like it's going to destroy a project or something's not going to happen right, believe that in the group, that your team, that you can find the answer and you can find the solution. It's not always the perfect solution. It's not always one that everybody's going to agree on, but there will be a solution and you will find it. And when you believe that, there it will be.
Where have you found this? You talk about some motivational speakers like Tony Robbins and people like that. You've talked about books, but you didn't start going to those before you, or did you? Or was that the catalyst? What was the catalyst for you to change?
It's interesting. I always had kind of an attraction to those things. So, I told you I probably got that eating disorder around 10 years old, but I lived in a little tiny town in Saskatchewan with a little tiny library, but I would go to the library and find these books to get help. I would, the Wayne Dyer and the Louise Hay is what was kind of out there at that time. And then as I got older, I could actually take the bus into the city to Regina, Saskatchewan, and the library was much bigger there. So there were more books, and I was just kind of a bookworm, always reading. And then you could get the cassette tapes. And then, when the internet came online, there's YouTube there's stuff all over YouTube. You just have to find what resonates with you. And there's lots of personal development out there, but you won't resonate with all of it. Some of it you can't align yourself with, but so then go find somebody that you do. There's millions of different people out there. So go find someone that you do resonate with. But the important thing is that you're doing it.
You wrote another thing about never settling for less than you know you need. Would you mind reading this one?
Sure. Months ago, I chose not to settle for something that wasn't enough for me. It may have been enough for someone else, but I knew it wasn't for me. It made me sad and it wasn't easy, but I walked away because I knew it was the right thing to do for myself. Taking action on that choice subsequently created space for me to be wowed by something arriving in my life that is beyond what I'd ever dreamed of would be possible. If you're deciding on whether something is right for you or not, be relentless and make sure that it is. Otherwise, let it go. When you have the courage to tell life what you want and say no thank you to the things you don't, I promise you miracles happen and dreams come true beyond your wildest dreams.
The best investment you can make is in yourself. And you went on to talk about a time that you ignore the voice in your heart. Can you read this?
Sure. There was a time when I ignored that voice in my heart, asking me to be more, do more, have more. I told her to be quiet. I ignored her. I put my attention on other things, but her voice never left me. Through years of self-discovery, I've learned that voice is my calling, my purpose, and my road to fulfillment. It's me asking me to give more to myself, to give more to the world. It's a voice we all have within us. It's the universe inspiring us to share its magnificence through us. We can stay quiet and small and hide ourselves away and allow the low vibes and darkness to take over. Or we can get up, speak up, shine our light, and give what we've got to transform this world into a place where we all feel loved and safe, creative and passionate, purposeful and fulfilled.
Excellent. Go ahead.
I'll just read the last one. How can you shine brighter today and make your voice a little louder? You matter and you make a difference.
We're going to take another break, a final break, and come back with some concluding comments with Holly Hanlon in just 2 minutes. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I'm having a really introspective and interesting conversation tonight with Holly Hanlon. She is the CEO of the Soho Media Group. You've got this book coming out. What are you saying in the book? What is it that you want to say to people in writing?
Well, it's a lot of kind of what we've just spoken about. And I have one chapter in the book. So it doesn't go into the depths that we've just gone through here, but there are some key takeaways that we can probably just take from that chapter. And one of them is that, everybody is, I want to say, like a precious gem. Everybody has something really incredible inside of themselves. And sometimes life doesn't allow them to express that or even acknowledge that it's there. And I want to say that it's really important to acknowledge that it's there, because it's there for a reason. That's my belief. It's really important to know who you are and what your worth is, because there is a value that brings into the world that makes the world a better place and makes the world more beautiful just by it being there. And so it needs to be expressed. And the value of our lives isn't determined by external factors. It's determined by our own sense of who we are and our own sense of self-worth. So that's why it's really important to know who we are.
I think this is a really interesting conversation, Holly, but I guess the thing I'm still struggling with is how do you get out of those bad situations? What's the catalyst? What's the thing? Is it going to a Tony Robbins thing and walking on coals? Like, what is it that initiated the whole process? Is it hitting bottom? Like you said, they had to hit bottom. What is it?
Yeah. And it's not one thing. It's really not just one thing. I guess if you had to boil it down to one thing, it would be just saying to yourself, is enough is enough. I don't want to feel this way anymore. I don't want to experience life this way anymore. I don't want to be unhappy. I don't want to be depressed. And when you know all of what you don't want to be, then you can turn that around and look at what you do want to be. And that's where taking that first step and making that decision and making that choice and committing to that choice and committing to yourself and committing to giving yourself a better life, because that's what you deserve. That's the place where the change happens. And from there, it's one step and another step and another step. And sometimes, things get intense and, you fall back a couple steps, but you just get back up. You stay committed to what you want in your life and you stay focused on that and you keep moving forward and you don't stop. You can't stop. You have to keep moving forward.
I noticed that you had one excellent picture on the beach in Vancouver Island. Are you still a Canadian girl at heart, or are you now an American?
I will always be a Canadian girl at heart. Always.
What a great story. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us tonight. I really appreciate it. You are an inspiration. If people want to connect up with you to read your inspirational quotes or check out your media group, Soho Media Group, how do they best do that?
Sure. So my website is sohosocialmedia.com. And you can find me on Instagram at Social with Holly is my handle. And that's actually where the Soho name came from. I had started with the Social with Holly on my Instagram, and I needed to shorten it for my business name. I needed to come up with a business name, so I just went Soho, and I thought it was kind of cool. Soho is always kind of an interesting arts district in every city, it seems. So that's where that name came from.
Holly Hanlon, you're an inspiration. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a wonderful opportunity to share my story. Thank you.
That's our show for tonight, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I remind you, I'm on every night, 6 o'clock on 960 AM. You can stream me online, even from Florida, at www.saga960am.ca. Good night, everybody. Thanks, Holly.
Thank you.